of my battle, I can see my king standing in front of me. If you're walking in my footprints, you will never follow in the steps of all the others. So I follow you, yeah. Sometimes I just wanna.
Hey, welcome to Act Like Men for real, that's right. And welcome back to our 2-week podcast. It almost jumped online last week, but duties are what it is. Appreciate all the feedback, all the downloads. It's kind of hard. God haters and God lovers brought you back up, but kind of mellowed out a little bit. Let's refine some things tonight. And, appreciate y'all. And it's hot here at the refuge. It definitely is hot probably everywhere tonight. The animals are doing great. They are acclimatizing as best that they can. We are too. I'm going through 3 or 4 t-shirts a day and maybe some underdrawers too. Man, I'm telling you, but I am thankful for HVAC. I am thankful for refrigerator, cold drinks. I am thankful for a nice, comfortable place to sleep in this heat. But it's the way it is. And sooner or later, in a couple months, it'll be fall and then winter, and we'll be whining about that too. That's how we are as humans. Well, let's get on to where we're going tonight. First of all, I want to say sometimes, but like a sermon I preach or a preacher preach, it's more for the preacher or the giver or the studier of the word than the receiver sometimes. That's like this podcast. It is more for me. So I want you to feel good that I ain't beating you up, probably beat myself up, a little bit. So tonight we're going to talk about, are you a cultic or biblical Christian? Woo, I didn't know there was a difference. Well, it is. It definitely is. Let's get down and start to rolling, and I'm going to see what Pastor Devin can add to the in between the dotted lines I have in my script tonight that I wanted to share with you. First of all, this statement came from Practice in the Way, Be with Jesus. It says here, the problem is in the West, we have created a cultural venue where you can be a Christian but not an apprentice of Jesus. Wow. Man, we have really watered down this word that was back in the day. The disciples and the earlier followers of Christ were known as Christ-like or little Christ in a sarcastic way. And it was actually a shameful word. And then we bolded it, we wear it on our shoulders. We got plaques, we got t-shirts, we got everything we want to call that to make us look good. Like Jesus said about the Pharisees, it looks good on the outside, but you nasty inside. We wear things like that a lot, and we think that that's where it is. But I know this. Like my mother used to say back in the day, she knows what I'm thinking. She knows what I'm doing, but Jesus knows our thoughts. Woo! He knows every thought we do. He knows what we're doing in that back closet. He knows when we say we claim integrity, but we ain't integrity. So there's one for you. Well, let's keep rolling and see what Pastor Devin's going to roll out. And this came out of also, I quoted this several times from Jeff Myers, The Secret Battle of Ideas about God, Overcoming the Outbreaks of 5 Fatal Worldviews. And he states here, long experience shows that our deepest heart questions revolve around love, hurt, meaning, peace, and hope. Here's a simple set of declarations of freedom, 5 truths that release us from the grip of ideal viruses that intend to do us harm. These declarations help us get a proper view of the world and for the world and resist the ideas trying to penetrate our defenses. First, he says, I am love, deep, unconditioned. Love exists and I have it. My suffering will be overcome. Hurt will not win. Indeed, it already has lost. I have incredible calling. My life has a meaning. I bear God's image. I am meant for community. I can overcome conflict and live at peace with those around me. And there is hope for the world, and I am not doomed. What is right, just, and true will win. Jeff Myers, Secret Battles of Ideas About God and Overcoming the Outbreaks of 5 Fatal Worldviews. And I'm telling you, it is imploding us today. It is culturally imploding from technology. It's just wearing us out. It's rewiring our youth's brain and us old folks. man, Alzheimer's and dementia is kicking in a way high because we ain't thinking no more. We're allowing the culture to think for us, and we are starting to put these ideas and let it seep into the church. Man, he's sitting right on the front pew sometime. You know what I mean? He's sitting right on the front pew. And really what we're trying to do is get rid of the chaff from our lives on our own way with our little g God self, instead of letting big G God get rid of the stuff in our life and align with him. And really what we're trying to create is our little perfect world. We wake up like that. We want our little perfect world. We want all the peace we want, no hiccups, no strategy. And I'm speaking, the thumbs and the fingers are pointing back to me, brothers and sisters. And really what we're trying to create is a utopia. Remember how that's failed over the years, from Hitler to everybody else, to communism, trying to create a utopia world. Well, if you never heard of that word, because I did a survey with my boys in lockup today, and they've never heard of that word. What is our education system teaching today? But I Googled this so I can have proper verbiage of it. And a utopia is an imagined or theatrical, that's a big word for Devin, society characterized by ideas of near perfect conditions, socially, politically, economically, and morally. The term came from Sir Thomas More 1516 book Utopia, where he describes a fictional island, you got to be all by yourself, society with harmonious living, shared property, and rational governance. The word itself plays on Greek pun tuples, good place, and tuples, I guess I'm saying that right, no place, suggests that a perfect society may be both desirable and impossible. Just a side note, this is what Christ was talking about, communion, not communism, communion, coming together, that ecclesia, the church, not the building, okay? Don't get this twisted. And it's also talking about that koinonia, that true sense of love. Koinonia, it's a oneness thing. It's actually in the book of Acts. Check it out when you get your reading time, and I hope you got it every day, every morning, or whatever it is that you've been fed by God's word. That's how you stay connected to the branch, and you abiding in him, because the end of chapter 15 says, verse 8 of 15 says, if you abide in his word and you ask of anything, it will be given. Man, come on, that's just easy math. I ain't smart, but that's easy math. Why we keep on canceling out God, making our own little g gods, and not depending on the big G God? I don't get it. Well, I'm speaking to myself too, But the other night, me and Miss Sun, my queen, doing our break time, our quiet time, our chill time on Fridays after we do our Sabbath meal, we like to sit down and watch a movie. We like to watch Chosen, first of all. We watch 1 or 2 episodes. But we want to act like teenagers and stay up late, And we like to watch a movie. We have some snacks, some unhealthy food, and we just sit like we're at the movie theater. And we find some movie somewhere, but we're using a twist with VidAngel, V-I-D Angel. Gets rid of all the fluff, the stupidity that I don't need to hear or see. And I can still watch a movie and get the content. Because it seems like if we don't add some nakedness, some skin today, it don't sell. If we don't add some filth or disrespecting leadership into the movie, it don't sell, But so we watched the movie, we streamed it from Netflix. Oh no, Pastor Devin watches Netflix with VidAngel, bro. Okay. And we watched this movie. I ain't never heard of it. I just looked at the description. I didn't know. Usually we can watch these movies and go, this is the dud, turn it off, go to the next. And I like that control, or that opportunity to make that decision, I'm not under the auspice, or you have to watch this, what's next, or binge watching on something. But here we go. What is the name of the movie, Pastor Devin, you talking about? It was called Eden. You said, well, that's about Genesis. No, it wasn't about Eden. It wasn't, not at all. Let me give you a description of what Eden was all about. The film dramatizes a true story from the early 1930s about a group of delusional Europeans who abandoned post-World War I society to create a utopian community on Florinda Island, a remote and uninhabited island in the Ecuador near Galapagos. You know that one from Darwin. And as the namesake suggests, what began as a promised paradise quickly devolves into chaos. That's right. The greatest threat isn't the brutal climate or wildlife, it's human nature itself. Jealousies, rivals, betrayals, theft, violence erupted between the factions, turning their utopian experiment into a descent into darkness. The film explores how ideologies, when confronted with greed, power, struggles, and conflicting visions of how society should function, derails little g God type of attitude. Every one of us as human natures, it's outside of God. In beginning from Eden, we were looking for utopia, and that's little g God. We were influenced by the adversary, Lucifer himself. He showed us that what God said is he didn't want you to be like him. So you can be your little g God and make your own stupid decisions. Remember what Jesus calls us? He compares us to an animal called sheep. And I tell you what, sheep are dumb. And I'm not saying we're dumb. We're just dumb to what God knows. God knows much, 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 much better than we ever would know in our life. I'm telling you, man, I don't get it sometimes. Myself too. I don't get it. I just, gotta work. I get slapped by God sometimes. And I'm looking for a book here I want to read to you. I thought it was very powerful. Let me find this thing where I'm at. Here we go. Okay, here's where I've been reading this book for a couple of years, and I'm a dog-eared guy. That means I dog-ear, fold over the pages, put the book, maybe 3 months later, start back up. And one of my best times to read paperback books is on Saturday morning when I turn off all the technology I have, and I just grab my paper Bible, I grab my paper journal, I grab all the books I've read, The Problem of Pain with C.S. Lewis, really processing that, reading some devotions, but reading several chapters in the Bible just to glean on something and meditate and process and ask God to reveal things. But one of the books I've been reading for a couple of years now is called Expose. It's by this guy, Chuck McAllister. And I've actually met this gentleman at a what they call wild game eating thing down here in South Carolina, where you eat possums and squirrels and raccoons and all kinds of stuff. A bunch of men in there showing their machismo, looking around. I can eat that, But they always have a very good speaker. I was impressed with this guy, and he really looked at me and he thought I'd served in Vietnam. I said, "Man, I ain't that old, brother." But he actually gave me the boat. He actually gave me the book, and he said, "To Devin, thank you for your service. Keep stepping up for Jesus. Your friend Chuck." That's what he said. Thank you, Chuck. A shout out to you. But he's been going through a process, and there's a lot of stuff about where America got it wrong. But I really want to talk about what we as Christians have got it wrong, and we've been fed this cultural Christianity instead of biblical. And so in Expose, in the chapter on second step of exposure, page 62, he starts dealing with Luke 12. And he states here, Jesus asks, "For what profit is a man if he gains the whole world and himself destroys or lost?" He told a parable to illustrate that greed is one of the surest indicator of exposures only in nations, but individuals as well. The parable tells us of a man who was totally dominated by his greed. He was already living exposed, but he refused to see it. Sometimes we can't see, it's called common sense. The end of his earthly life was imminent. That night, God confronted the man, and he told them in the parable, "The ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop. He thought to himself, 'What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops.'" The man was only concerned with his wealth, his money. Cash rules everything around us. That's right, that money. That's what we were thinking about. One of his primary mistakes was believing that the abundance good for which he had been blessed belongs to him. He didn't bother to seek God's guidance or what he should do with the bumper crop. God called him a fool. That's right, a fool, a buffoon fool. That's Devin's illustration, because this man thought things were enough to satisfy him. And then in verse 19, he says, "I say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take easy, eat, drink, and marry." Verse 20, "But God said to him, you fool, This very night, your life will be demanded from you, and then you will get what you have prepared for yourself. Bam! Man, a slap in the face here, brother and sister. A big slap in the face of what it is. He says here, he says, I got some highlights. He goes, you can't join Jesus hanging out on stuff of this life. You can't join Jesus. You can't be a biblical Christian. Jesus sums it all up in verse 21. This is how it will be for anyone who stores up things for himself, but is not rich towards God, who is not a biblical Christian. Stores up stuff. Look what God has blessed me with. Man, I got so much money. It's ridiculous. Remember who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills? Not us. God does. Not us. I got another thing I want to highlight here. I'm flipping pages. If you can hear me flipping pages, I'm flipping. Where's that other dog ear at? Man, here it is. Here it is. Man, I love this. And I got a bum thumb tonight. I'm going to hopefully get some surgery on this thing so I can start using my thumb again. You don't know how important a thumb is until it's messed up. You know what I mean? Well, let's get to page 90 of Second Step of Exposure. I'd expose. He said, truth is defined in postmodern America as whatever my experience or reasoning tells me about my situation. You know, based on our past, our family, culturally, what we think is right. You know, we leave out what's biblical. My opinion about my situation that becomes the determining factor in the choices and decisions I make, putting me in direct conflict with others whose opinions about our shared opinions or situations may be different. The result is chaos. I remember that back up in there, the Eden movie. Okay. Culture of independently opinionated people who have an external source to rely upon to determine what is true, thus what is real. There's a larger story that makes sense of reality. John Eldridge always talked about our story and the larger story. The world is at war, but there's a love story that we fit in. And we are fighting the world and that without the love story. We're fighting that world. We're fighting that world without the love story. So check this out. Oh, here's one more. I got one more for you. And I'll put this book in the show notes here. Woo, I can say that. When man's opinions and his perceptions rather than God become the controlling factor in a nation, people do whatever they want to do. They have abandoned God's leadership for that of their own opinion. A nation dominated by the opinions of a people and not by God's truth is a nation living exposed. Bam! There you go. Take that to the bank. You know, that'll sell. You know, so the reality is talking about cultic or biblical Christianity. The question I have for you, you brother or sister out there listening, you know, listen to this. And it says this, is your decision about money, life, relationship, or marriage biblical or cultural? It's what's going on. It's what everybody's doing so I can have my peace. John Eldridge says this in the famous book, A Wild at Heart, expanded edition, discovered the secret of a man's soul. The world of poser is shaken by a real man. They'll do whatever it takes to get you back in line, threaten you, bribe you, seduce you, undermine you. They crucified Jesus, but it didn't work, did it? You must let your strength show up. Remember Christ in the garden, the sheer force of his presence. Many of us have actually been afraid to let our strength show up because the world doesn't have a place for it. Fine, the world's screwed up. Let people feel the weight of who you are and let them deal with it. Let them deal with it. You know, in the army, they say, you know, something when we go into battle and you just taking out the enemy, you just shooting them all up, but I'll let God sort them out. Well, that's kind of what we're looking at here. You know, let's let God handle them all. You know, how do we get through this process not to be a cultural Christian? I am seeking in my own life to model this to me, to my wife, to my sphere of influence. Wherever God takes me, I want to be a biblical Christian when that's nobody looking. I don't want to be cultural. I don't want to do what they do. You know, I'm just tired of that. I'm old, you know, but here's what John Eldridge says, and get your life back, everyday practice for world gone mad. I'm just starting to read this book, and it's powerful, but there's some things in here that I've already put in practice that's been very helpful to me. It's been very helpful to me. It's called the 1 minute pause. You know, I had an instance this weekend. I had to actually go to the restaurant and relieve myself and take this 1 minute pause because I was dealing with a lot of people, different personalities. And it says here, I simply take 60 seconds to be still and let everything go. As I enter the pause, I begin with release. I let it all go. It's meetings, what I know is coming next, the fact that I'm totally behind on everything, all of it. I simply let it go. I pray, Jesus, I give everyone and everything to Jesus, to you. Then I ask for more of God. Jesus, I need more of you. Fill me with more of you. God, restore our union. Fill me with your life. You'll be surprised what a minute can do for you. Even more so, you can get practice at it. Honestly, you can do this pause nearly anywhere, and I did in your car, on your train, after you get off your phone. I know it seems small, but we have to start somewhere. This pause is accessible and doable. Get your life back. Everyday practice for a world gone mad. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, cultural Christianity will derail and fail. It will fail. It will fail misery, and the world will laugh at you and others in churches that are cultural Christianity. But biblical Christianity will always, always guarantee for eternity, it says. Preach it, brother. Will stand forever. Stand forever. Try it. You might like it. You know, I'm speaking to many folks out there that are making cultural Christianity decisions as I'm speaking. And it burdens me. It weeps me. It just, I just like, or I just, another side of me, I just need to slap you, or I need to pour something in your head just to get this. But I ain't God. I'm giving you this now. I'm just a messenger. Let God do business with you, brother and sister. Let God do business with you. Let's get this right, because the world is waiting for you to be the light and salt in this world, not some muddled up mud puddle, swamp looking cultural Christianity that folds into the deception of the world that's been like that since the beginning. Check it out. Genesis 1, you might want to check that out these days. It says it right there. But other than that, it was a little hard, a little bit deal, but I always need feedback, brothers and sisters. If sisters are out there listening, you want to pass to your brother, your husband, significant other, whatever, please do. You know, you can check us out, our website. That's Full Circle Refuge. You can check out our podcast, of course, right here. You can check out our YouTube page, Full Circle Refuge. You can see some content that's happening on the refuge here, other side of the ministry. You know, old days when I had some hair on top of my head. Yeah, I'm bald I could slick as onion. I'm shining good today. I use that Freebird, man. You bald people out there, y'all know what I'm talking about, that Freebird. I ain't doing no advertisement. But other than that, got to go and try to get a bowl of ice cream or something. But the reality is, go serve your king. I'm out.
Sometimes it's just like a rainy day. I just want it to go away. But you know that the sun will find a way to shine at the end of the day. Heavy on the work inside of me, laying down my wheels so I can see the things in the kingdom He wants me to be. Forgive me when I wanna give up. Sometimes I just wanna quit it all, but the Holy Spirit lifts me up before I fall. I keep on walking down this narrow road. It's too heavy for me, I can't do this on my own. Holy Spirit, carry me on.